Okay, hi, welcome back to another video. So as you have seen from the title and the thumbnail, this video is a Christmas themed reading vlog where I'll be reading Christmas romances. So I have already read like 2 books and DNF'd 1 book. So I felt like, okay, I need to hurry up and come on here to update. Didn't manage to update sooner because I was on a trip. So the first book that I read was The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is like red, white, and royal blue meet The Nightmare Before Christmas. And it's about the Prince of Christmas and the Prince of Halloween. So our real main character, the Prince of Christmas, Nicholas, also known as Cole, because he is kind of like a troublemaker in that he's the heir of Christmas, but he kind of gets into trouble quite a bit. The book starts off with him getting into trouble again. It was the one time that he really tried to make a difference, but he ended up having bad consequences. So basically, he granted every child's wish for Christmas for this particular country because he was reading the letters that they wrote in, and then he was like very sad about the situation because the letters would say things like, "My daddy left and it's just mommy and me now. So I just really hope that we get some cash so that mommy doesn't have to worry." And it ended up breaking the economy of the country. And it also, like, all their presents showed up in the middle of June, which is like not even Christmas. So it had very bad repercussions, of which he got in trouble with his father, which is Santa. So he was like trying to turn things around. And then afterwards, his dad orchestrated this whole thing where he will be wooing the Princess of Easter so that Easter and Christmas can have a partnership together. And then it's quite political because then afterwards Halloween shows up to challenge for the princess's hand. And so Cole and the Prince of Halloween, who is Hex, both supposedly competing to see who will win the Princess Easter's hand, even though Santa was saying that it's just a facade to like placate Halloween, but in the end Easter and Christmas were still partnered together because then they get to have this partnership and then spread the reign and influence of Christmas. It was super political because then Santa got into all the things about how he needs to do a lot to ensure that the joy of Christmas manages to spread further, and it's not just about materialistic things like getting presents for your holiday and things like that, and it's about how the amount of joy garnered from each holiday is measured and quantified. Yeah, so I really didn't like the political part about that, but I roughly expected it from reading the reviews. So what saddened me was that I wasn't that into the romance, in that I didn't really like get excited about reading about them getting together because I felt like it was quite insta-lust, in that they were like instantly attracted to each other. Then it's just a matter of time. I couldn't really see that chemistry, but it's sweet lah. Like after they get together and stuff, they're like obsessed with each other. But it's just not that good for me. I should have expected this because I didn't really like red, white, and royal blue. But I thought this would be a bit different. But I guess not. So it's just like an eh. In terms of Christmas vibes, there were like 2 particular Christmassy events that were kind of explained more in detail. So one was like sleigh riding. And then the other one was, I think, ice skating, but I couldn't really feel a lot of Christmas vibes because it was so like political and PR stunty that it wasn't really like the joy of Christmas and get into the Christmas vibes, you know? So I decided to give this book 2.5 stars because I think it's just not the right book for me. So yeah, then afterwards, I started to read My Favorite Holiday by Lauren Blakely, and this was the book that I DNF'd at 11.4%. So it's about like 60-ish pages because the writing is so, oh my god, it's so cringe. Like, I need to see whether I still have the highlights from the ridiculousness of the writing. Okay, basically the story is about the female main character and her boss, who is a billionaire, and somehow the billionaire is her sister-in-law's best friend. The story starts off with them at a Christmas party hosted by the boss, I think, and then she catches her date of 4 months cheating on her with the caterer at the event. And then at the same event, her sister's boyfriend proposed to the sister, and so then there's a whole wedding. And the boss is the best man, the female main character is the maid of honor, The ex is also coming to the wedding party because he is cousins with brother-in-law. So then she wanted to make the ex jealous, so her boss and her team up as a pair to fake date. But I couldn't even get to the fake dating part. I was so cringed out by the writing. Things like he actually growls, and then she's like being portrayed as awkward, but it's like so, I don't know, I just found her very cringe. She'll take like hand cream and then she'll just say that, oh, it's dark kiss. And then the pros will say he gives a casual shrug, like why not use dark kiss? Yeah, like at the cheating scene, right, she was like saying she's wearing Christmas themed fuzzy socks as she jingles his bells. Like, what? I really cannot read the writing. And it's super long. It's like 500 pages. Why does a romance need to be 500 pages? So I really couldn't get into it. And I was like, I'm not going to waste my time trying to read 500 pages of something that I won't even enjoy. And there are so many Christmas books that I have to read. So I decided DNF. Apparently it's quite spicy though. So I didn't even get to that. I didn't even get to the fake dating part. It seemed like the boss was already attracted to the female main character. And it wasn't shown like why they're attracted to each other. So I'm just like, okay, skip. Okay, then the next book that I read was Mistletoe Meet Cute by Bella Matthews. And this is really short. It's like a novella, like 194 pages. And I enjoyed this one. So basically this book is about our female main character whose brother's teammate needs a nanny. So our female main character was trying to find a job, but she hasn't been successful. And just nice, the male main character called Camden Monroe, he is a single dad and he has like a little baby to take care of. And the situation was that his previous nanny was a 70-year-old lady who decided to retire. And ever since then, he's been too busy. He's a football star, by the way. He's a quarterback. So he has been too busy in getting around to get a nanny to replace the old one. So he has been getting by his sister, helping to babysit. So her sister also has a toddler and she will help to babysit the baby also. But then he can tell that the sister is being overstretched by taking care of a baby and a toddler at the same time. And so there was once where her own child fell sick and she didn't want the baby to get the illness as well. So then he was like, well, I need someone to take care of my baby. His teammate, which is our female main character's brother, was like, okay, how about you try my sister because she needs a job. She's looking for a job. She has a degree in child development or something like that, which is like quite relevant. So he decides to give her a try. And she's obviously very good with the baby. The baby loves her. His dog also loves her. And he's like, okay, let's work this arrangement out. So he needed a live-in nanny. So she needed to move in with him. But then off days and everything will be scheduled. What was interesting was that, not interesting, but like they didn't actually first meet at the interview. They actually already met each other prior to this. Once where he was holding the baby. And then once again at a pharmacy or something like that where he was like flirting with her and decided to buy her the pets that she was looking at. So they already have some history. Then they enter into this arrangement and then their relationship develops from there. She is very into Christmas. So he's like a Grinch, right? He doesn't really care about Christmas, but she's like, no. You have to make sure your baby's first Christmas is monumental. Even if she doesn't remember, she'll have the pictures to look back on. And then he's rich, so he's like, he gives her a credit card, like Amex, and he's like, get whatever you need for Christmas. And then she slowly decorates his house, everything like that, and it's very cute because the chemistry was there. They have an age gap though, so she's 24 and he's 32, but they're both attracted to each other and she loves his kid. So like, and then it's about them getting to know each other's families because she is part of a very big family. They own this vineyard and it's like Christmas themed for the holidays and he meets all her siblings. It's like very predictable, but I really enjoyed it and the Christmas vibes were really on point because she loves Christmas. They do like Christmassy things together. The vineyard has Christmassy things also. Yeah, it just really worked for me and it's really short, so yeah, like I can't really complain. Yeah, so I gave this book 4.25 stars. I realized I haven't given you any trigger warnings. Okay, I'm done talking about all three, so I'm just going to give you the trigger warnings. For Nightmare Before Christmas, sexual content, emotional abuse, abandonment, grief, death, cursing, car accidents, alcohol, and death of parent. My favorite holiday, I'm not going to give you, you can search it up yourself because I didn't get too much into the book. For mistletoe meet cute, trigger warnings for sexual content, sexual assault, vomit, and death of parent. So yeah, okay. Hopefully things are looking up now that I finally read a book that is Christmas themed and I enjoy it. Now I'm currently reading Elven Days of Christmas, which is about a half elf, so it's like a bit of fantasy, and a human. They are like predicting because apparently she cut down a 7,000-year-old tree and he needs the tree back. To enter the house, her family saw him and they were like, "Oh, you brought back your boyfriend for the first time?" And he was like, "Yeah, my boyfriend." And then he gets invited in. So they have to spend 12 days fake dating because it's 12 days until Christmas. And once the fake dating started, I actually enjoyed it more. The writing so far is okay. It's a little bit like flowery, which is not so much to my liking, but it's not cringe, so I can get through it. And I will just keep you updated when I'm finished with it. Yeah. Okay, hi, I'm coming on the update because I have finished one book and DNF'd another book. I'm being quite liberal with my DNFs for this video because there are just too many Christmas books that I don't want to waste my time trying to get through one that I know that I won't enjoy. Let's talk about the book that I DNF'd first because I really don't have much thoughts for that. That book is The Santa Suit by Mary Kay Andrews. I only got into like 15% of it. Basically, the story is that it's kind of like a chick lit and it's really very short, relatively short. It's 224 pages, but I couldn't stand the 15% that I was reading. Yeah, so basically, we follow Ivy Perkins, who is newly divorced and she buys an old farmhouse in this super small town that has a population of like maybe 1,500. The farmhouse is called the Four Roses. Okay, so she just bought the house based on the listing. She didn't come down to see it or anything. So when she moved everything over, she was like, oh, the family left like a lot of junk in the house for her. And there were like quite a few things that were missing, like heating or things like that. So she was quite annoyed and she displayed the annoyance to the person who was there to meet her. I think he's the property agent probably. And then he was like quite apologetic about it. He was like, oh, I can help you move everything out if you want. I will get it sorted. And then she was just giving him a lot of attitude. She then found in this closet an old Santa suit, which was decades old, and in the pocket she found a note written from a little girl who had one Christmas wish, which was for her father to return home from war. And so then she gets sucked in. She was touched by the letter and she decided to try and hunt down any clues that people might have about this note. That's roughly where I got into the story before I was like, okay, this is enough. Because I wasn't very interested in the note itself, the way that the story writing was done, I wasn't particularly drawn in as well. The reason why I picked this up was because of a recommendation, and then I tend to go into my books blind, so I only found out the plot as I was reading it. And then I didn't like her attitude. She was very rude to the real estate agent, and then even as she was like, asking for information about the note, about the family to people in town, her interactions weren't super nice also. And it's like, you're the one asking for information, so shouldn't you be the one that is more polite, you know, and not the other way around when people from the town were like trying very hard to be welcoming and be like, oh, welcome, where are you from, things like that. Yeah, I just couldn't see myself enjoying this, so I decided to stop there. The actual order is that I finished the other book first, then I tried this one, but I just decided to talk about this first because I have lesser thoughts. So the book that I actually finished is The Elven Days of Christmas, and I realized that I just listed this author's other book as a one to read, so more thoughts on that later. The first chapter, I was tempted to DNF because the writing was so flowery that I was like, oh, I don't think I'm going to enjoy this. And it was from the half-elf's point of view. Cole is written in third person, if I am not remembering wrongly. It's written in third person, but then the perspective changes. So like, let's say this chapter we focus on our main character, which is Cole. So then the third person would be like, oh, usually Cole doesn't do this. But then the next chapter will focus on our female main character called Piper, and then it will be like, oh, Piper, that kind of thing. I don't know if I'm making sense. But anyway, so we start off with Cole's perspective. He is basically a half-elf. Being a half-elf, you get discriminated on both sides. Growing up, he wasn't deemed as useful to elves because, for one, his lifespan is a lot shorter than full-blooded elves. He's not as in tune to magic as full-blooded elves are, but with his human half, he has talent in like accounting and Excel, like coding, I don't know. Basically like things that humans can do and are quite good at, like math or reports or whatever. He's quite good at it. So then he was working for the Elven Perennial Association, also known as the EPA. He was on a short trip excursion because he was like looking through his reports, and then he realized that, oh, like there was this whole chunk that was not accounted for. So then he was like, oh, I have to go and fix it. And then he was there like counting trees and everything, and then he realized that one of the trees, which was 7,000 years old, was chopped off. And he was like, who, how? Because humans don't get to that part of the area. And then that's when he discovered Piper, and that's kind of where they met. And then he was like trying to threaten Piper to return the tree, and she was like, no, can't do this, is my tree. And in Piper's perspective, every year she gets led by some kind of magic to this particular tree every year, and then somehow she'll just know that this is the magic tree, this is the perfect tree, this is the tree that they need for that Christmas. So there's like a hint of magic that's leading her. They argue, he follows her back to her home, and then her family members spot them, and then one of them was like, oh, Piper brought home a guy for the first time. Cole was just like, yes, I'm the boyfriend. And then he gets invited into the home, and then afterwards they have to pretend to date because it would be weird to introduce a boyfriend and then afterwards not have a boyfriend anymore. So they enter into this agreement in that they will pretend to date, Piper will pretend to have a boyfriend, so then her relatives won't hound her, and then Cole will be able to bring back the tree after Christmas, which was going to be in 12 days. That's where their story progresses. What really appealed to me was like, yes, the fake dating, I love fake dating, but also the subtle Christmas elements. It's like it really incorporates the whole chaos of Christmas and like big families. Piper is basically the one managing everyone, the extended family, cousins, the uncles and aunties. Ever since her mom died, she's just trying to get everything in order. So she's like very organized. She has like a whole planner. So it's like today is maybe ice skating day. The other day is like watching a Christmas play. And then she will have to bake like casseroles or like cinnamon rolls or cookies. And it feels very cozy and chaotic at the same time. Throughout this whole process, Cole is like fitting in very well. He slowly gets to know Piper, and then he sees that actually her family is like quite an asshole because they treat Piper like the pushover that she is. So Piper assumes that role of like caretaker, and the family just lets her do it without any form of gratefulness. So for instance, she would have been making her mom's lasagna using the mom's recipe, but then the dad would just buy burgers, and then the extended family would just stuff the burgers wrappers into the couch, the gaps. Like, who does that, right? And Piper doesn't say anything, so it just continues like that. And then her little cousins would just run into her and then won't apologize because nobody really disciplines the three children, things like that. And Piper is just left to stress out over Christmas herself. She has a brother. The brother barely cares about it. Her brother forgets to get her a Christmas present every year, to the point where Piper didn't want to navigate the awkwardness of that. So then she would just steal money from her brother's wallet to buy a present for herself, and then she would act surprised about the present that the brother gave her, and the brother will also be trying not to act surprised by the present that he gave her. Like, what? Like, oh my god, this is extreme levels of people pleaser. Okay, Cole witnesses everything, and then he's like very protective of Piper. He's like, why are you not doing anything? Or like, why does your family take advantage of you? Then he tries to get back for her. So there was like a scene wherein he taught the three cousins a lesson or like he called out her brother for his lack of care towards Piper and things like that. And it's very cute because they go from like strangers to them having this situationship and then slowly becoming attracted to each other, and then you see Cole being protective about Piper. I liked that development. And then it gets steamy maybe 3/4 of the way through, and I was like, okay, I enjoy this as well. And they're really cute together. Cole is kind of like, doesn't really fit in anywhere. So then when he spends these 12 days in Piper's home, he's like, oh, they are very accepting of the boyfriend in that they include him, they came do activities with them, and it makes Cole feel like warm and fuzzy inside because he has never had a place where he thought that he belonged. So it also worked out for him. Yeah, it's just very cute. I really enjoyed this. So I gave it 4.5 stars. I forgot to talk about trigger warnings. Let me talk about it now. Trigger warnings for sexual content, death of parent, grief, cancer, toxic relationship, classism, sexism, alcohol, injury detail. Half star deducted because I really couldn't stand how awful the family was being to a family member. But I guess that's how most families are, right? Each family has its own problems. Towards the end, she did kind of stand up for herself and things did get better, but the whole front part, oh my god. And also, the half star was also deducted because for the front part where I couldn't really get into it, but other than that, it was really very cute. And the cover itself, you can see that there's a mistletoe, right? They did kiss under a mistletoe quite a few times, or maybe once, and then afterwards they just kept kissing. And I was like, oh, very cute, very cute. Okay, yeah, so that's all my thoughts for this book so far. Okay, how I choose my reads are based on random views. So I hope I managed to slot in those video clips as evidence throughout this whole video. But the next book that came up was Holidays. So I will be reading that. The first page seemed promising, so I hope I don't DNF this one. I don't know where to stop with this video, TBH. Maybe I'll stop when I have read 5 books. Yeah, okay. See you in the next one.
What the heck? Oh my god, look at this. Okay, you totally don't know what this is, but oh my god. So romantic, but he's so whipped for her. Oh my god. He knows her so well. Oh my god. Stop. No, he catfished as him. Okay, I take back everything that I said was cute. How did Mano know? He really like talked like him, yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Hi, I've read my 4th book for this video, and that is The Holidays by Brittany C. Cherry. Trigger warnings first because I keep forgetting to talk about it. Trigger warnings for infidelity, sexual content, cancer, child abuse, toxic relationship, emotional abuse, alcoholism, addiction, and drug abuse. Again, this is a relatively short read. On Goodreads is listed as 276 pages for the Kindle edition. Basically what this story is about, we follow Holly Jackson, by the way, like, is the author a fan of the author Holly Jackson? I don't know. This book started off with the prologue wherein she was about to get married, and her best friend, who is also her co-author of romance novels, she was trying to ask her if she really wanted to go through with the marriage. And then Holly was like, yeah, of course I want to go through with it. Why wouldn't I want to go through with it, right? Then at the altar, as the pastor was like saying, if anyone has any objection, say now or forever hold your peace. I can't remember what's the exact wording. And then her fiance himself said that he objected, and then he was looking at her best friend and was telling her that I'm in love with you. And then they proceeded to elope from the altar, leaving Holly at the altar herself. So turns out they were cheating on Holly with each other, which is like, it sucks, right? Because she lost her partner and her best friend at the same time, and also her business partner. So she resolved not to like fall in love with her again until like maybe 8 or 10 months later, and she's very lonely and it's close to the holidays period again, and she really wanted to get a date because she didn't want to go back home to a small hometown alone for Christmas, where everyone was going to be like, oh, you poor thing, you got cheated on by your best friend and your husband got left at the altar on your wedding day, so on and so forth. And so she was determined to go on a lot of dates and find a partner to bring home for Christmas. And then she then had a meet ugly with our main character, who's called Kai. Basically, she was reading a book and walking around, and then she bumped into Kai, who was holding like $1,000 worth of alcohol for his new restaurant that was set to open. And of course, Holly was like, oh, you bumped into me. And then Kai was like, you bumped into me. That was their meet ugly, and they were like, oh, what a bad encounter, you know, because the wine also ruined the book that she was holding. So then afterwards, they left, and then Kai noticed Holly because they were living in the same apartment building. He always saw her walking around with her head buried in a book, but Holly never noticed Kai before. And so then their next encounter was Holly went into the restaurant that Kai owned. He co-owned this restaurant with his friend Ayumu. And basically she was like, this restaurant was so near to her apartment, she wanted it to be like her Cheers, which is apparently like a reference to some, I don't know, movie wherein the main character has this go-to restaurant place where the employees all know about her. They will greet her, she has a usual spot, she has a usual order, things like that. And then she was like, you can't be here because I wanted this to be my Cheers, but you being here ruins that. And then she decides to just go forth with it anyway. She brings all her dates to Kai's restaurant. He named the restaurant Manu's after his brother Manu. Kai was like witnessing all her first dates, right? This woman brought in like a date almost every day or every other day for I think 2 weeks before he finally stepped in and was like, oh my god, you need to stop going on dates with these ridiculous men, and you are putting yourself too much out there. You seem desperate. That's why none of your first dates progress into second dates. And he was being very brutally honest about it. I think he was also like kind of attracted to her, and he was also kind of irritated that she was using this place for all her dates. So he decided to make conversation with her. And then she was like, I am not da da da. And then he proceeded to give her like a few tips on what she can do to improve so that her first dates will progress into more second dates. And some of the rules were like, I wrote it down, hold on. He will say things like, the guy needs to pay on a date. If he can't pay, he shouldn't be on a date. And then he will ask her to not be so heavy on the makeup, like do whatever you want. But if you're putting on makeup to impress the guy, don't do that. I can't remember the rest. I think something like leave some space for the guy to ask her questions instead of bombarding the guy with questions. Things like that. He was like, okay, try this out. And then he also helped her fix her dating profile so that she will get more dates. Essentially, he was trying to set her up. And their relationship progresses into a friendship. So then she meets a guy who seems quite okay. And then that's when Kai realized that, oh, he actually doesn't want her to be with someone else. He actually likes her. But then it's like, oh shit, she already set him up with the guy, right? And that's when the story progresses. Eventually, okay, this is kind of like spoilers already. Eventually, finds out that the guy that he set up with that seemed perfect was actually not perfect, and it fell apart right before Christmas. And so then Kai was like, okay, I will be your fake date to bring home for Christmas. It involved a little bit of catfishing by his brother, but eventually they entered into this fake dating thing, and then that's when most of the story progresses. So Kai is really like a fictionally unreal character, okay? Because apart from the thing that I said just now about him saying that the guy should pay for all the dates, when he was just starting to get to know her and found out that she was a romance author, he went to buy one of her books thinking that he was gonna roast what she wrote to her, and ended up loving it so that he bought more of her books, and he read like 38 of her books or something like that. A guy reading romance novels. And then he was ready to fight the guy. She mentioned that one of her previous dates called her wider than expected from her pictures, and then he was like ready to fight that guy, and he was like, you shouldn't like believe whatever the guy is saying. And also the guy that was perfect but turned out to be not perfect, he was ready to fight him too. When they had a fight, to make it up to her and apologize, he proceeded to buy books and made a book bouquet for her. Like, what the heck? Every bookworm's dream, okay? Oh my god. Naming his restaurant after his brother is also like so cute, and his relationship with his brother is very cute as well. He also created a specialty cocktail menu for Holly and named the drinks all after her books, and has one drink called Holly. What the heck? Okay, he's like so cute. They have a bit of an age gap. She's like 32, 31, and she is 25. As cute as everything is, this book is also a little bit heavy in that both of them have their own trauma. So Holly with issues with self-esteem and self-love after everything that happened to her and how she couldn't seem to find someone who would love her for her. And then Kai is kind of like a grumpy guy. He also got hurt. Basically, he had a wife before, like maybe like 2 or 3 years before, and she had cancer. And okay, this spoilers, he found out that she was cheating on him before she found out about the cancer. So he found out during the cancer, and he continued to take care of her because he wanted her to be alive so that he can hate her. And I also think he's just a very good guy. And then afterwards, when she recovered from the cancer, she then told him that she was pregnant and she left him. And then she ghosted him, so he couldn't even file for divorce from her, which is so crazy, okay? So both of them are suffering, and towards the end of the book, they have this whole few pages about them trying to overcome and talk about the heavy things with each other, which felt a little bit too heavy for me. But apart from that, everything else was very cute. I forgot to mention, Kai also had a very not good childhood because growing up, his parents didn't have their shit together. They were alcoholics and then neglected Kai growing up, such that there were a lot of times where, for example, he tried to hide in the closet for 2 days to see when his parents would notice and come and find him, and they never did. I don't know, a lot of issues. They just weren't there for him, basically. When he was 15, they gave birth to Mano, and then afterwards they were like, okay, we need to get our shit together, and then they sobered up. They became very successful with their careers. They gave Mano everything that they couldn't give Kai, and so Kai obviously was very resentful towards Mano growing up, but then afterwards he realized that it's nothing to do with Mano, it's everything to do with his parents. So he has an estranged relationship with his parents. His parents would also always nitpick on him and be like, why don't you come back home for the holidays, and then why are you always bringing up the past when it's already over, things like that. Also, one more thing is that both of them were traumatized at Christmas. So she was left on the altar at Christmas Eve. His partner left him when the Christmas tree was up already, so it's around holidays period as well. Yeah, so he's also dealing with that. And one more thing is that the grammar in this book needed an editor, because the author doesn't know the difference between Y-O-U-R and Y-O-U''re, doesn't know the difference between THEY''re and THEIR. And then it will be things like parents' driveway. It should be plural, but then it became singular with an apostrophe S, or all the fake boyfriends, and then it's the plural versus apostrophe S again. And then I realized with all these Christmas romances, there's always going to be some kind of Christmas pun inside. So for this book, it was jingle jangled the same pair of balls, ho 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 the same cheap toy. Yeah. And back to the positives that I've completely forgot about. There was a direct comparison between the asshole that she thought was a good guy versus Kai. So the asshole would be saying I put up listening to you talk about stupid birds and whatever that doesn't make any sense. And then in comparison, Kai was saying that everything she said made no sense, but everything she said mattered. And then he also carries her to bed and gives her polite kisses. He takes care of her. He's an acts of service guy. Very sweet. Yeah, acts of service. So in the end, I decided to give this book 4.5 stars, same rating as Elven Days of Christmas, because both had their good and bad parts and both really hit the Christmas vibes and things like that for me. For this holidays book, when they went home for Christmas in particular, they had a lot of festive things like building a snowman. Oh, building a snowman! Oh my god, okay, so Holly, right? It's basically a bundle of joy. He calls her Holly Jolly. She mentioned at the start of the book that she wanted a partner to build a snowman with, and then drink hot cocoa, and then sit by the Christmas fire, make sugar cookies, things like that. And Kai remembered it, and when he went home with her for Christmas, one morning he just woke up and was like, you know what we're gonna do later? We're gonna make a snowman. And he's the kind of grumpy guy that doesn't do these kind of things, but he does it for her because he likes her. So it's the little things, it's about remembering what your partner likes and following through with it. Also, it is quite steamy, and also the fake dating doesn't really last very long. It's there's no that angst of oh, we're just fake dating. They're quite open about communicating with each other, in that they will say things like, okay, I know we're fake dating, but I'm falling in love with you. But there is a kind of cliche conflict at the end, but I was quite okay with it. Yeah, it just hit. So 4.5 stars, and I am not going to spin the wheel because I know what I want to read for my last book, which is Good Spirits, which was the whole reason why I started with this video in the first place. So I'm gonna read that. It better be good. Oh my god, imagine if the anticipation is so high that it turns out not to be good. I'm gonna be so sad. I can't wait for the audiobook because I am still on the waiting list. 6 more weeks there. Cannot. I'm just gonna read the ebook and then I'll update you again when I'm done. Hi, I'm here to close out the video because I finished Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. I'm done with this book. Okay, trigger warnings. Trigger warnings for sexual content, death, emotional abuse, grief, toxic relationship, abandonment, injury detail, body shaming, and cursing. In the end, I decided to give this book 4.25 stars. And what this book is about I love how I review the rating before my review because then you can stop watching. Okay, this one we follow our two main characters, Nolan Callahan, who is the ghost of Christmas past. So basically he haunts miserable people and takes them through their past to let them realize the error of their ways, and then he hands them over to the ghost of Christmas present. So his recent assignment is Harriet York, who is a good person, or like she tries to be. She's a people pleaser, so she always sacrifices her own feelings and her own wants for the good of other people. When Nolan is assigned to Harriet, neither of them know what's the reason, but they have to spend time with each other because she is his assignment. So then he takes her through her different memories of her past and tries to find out why he has been assigned to her, and their relationship slowly develops from there. So of course they start to get attracted to one another. What's interesting is that even though he's a ghost, she can touch him. And also, people can see him, they just don't tend to remember him or they forget him very easily, which is very convenient for our romance over here. I enjoyed this. I particularly enjoyed the latter half because I was very intrigued in trying to find out what happens at the end, like why they get paired with each other, what is happening, because Harriet is definitely not a miserable person, and so on and so forth. Very Christmassy vibes because it's literally Ghost of Christmas Past. And they also do like Christmassy things together, like, I don't know, ice skating, drinking hot tea by the fireplace with the Christmas tree decorations. Very cozy vibes, but also quite deep because Harriet is estranged from her family because of something that she did years ago. And her family is not the best to her, and she kind of comes to terms with it towards the end of the book, but it took her on a journey because it's so ingrained in her what her family has taught her, that she isn't enough, she never will be enough, and she has to slowly realize that this thinking is wrong. She shouldn't be blaming herself for the fault of others, things like that. Oh, this is quite Christmassy, right? Random note. I gave this 4.25 because it was enjoyable, but I didn't feel like I was reading anything particularly novel. I feel like this type of story has been done before and you can kind of guess how it ends. So I wasn't particularly blown away, but it's also a good book. This would be my final ranking for all the books that I've read in terms of most to least favorite, not counting the DNFs. But I would say that of the books that I actually finished, they were mostly good, which is a good thing. So yeah, I hope next year I will have more Christmas romances that I can read. I realized I forgot to read Snowed In by Catherine Walsh, so that will be for next year if I remember. And yeah, I don't know when this is coming out. I hope it is by Christmas or like soon. But yeah, I hope you have a great Christmas celebration and end of the year celebration as well. Happy New Year in advance. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel to see more of such content. I hope you're having a great day or a great week whenever or wherever you're watching. Remember to stay hydrated, and I'll see you in my next video next year. See you next year. Bye. Bye.